about something, and it's just.
All right.
Wow. I can believe it, though.
It's good now.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Well, yeah. All right. I'd like to bring the June 15th Parks and Open Space Committee meeting to begin. Anybody courtesy of the floor? No? All right. I'd like to go ahead.
All right. So for tonight, I have a few grants. Three, or actually four, were for the Environmental Services Assistance Program, and one other was a municipal park project that couldn't go through the advisory board meeting the last time, so they came through in June here. The first one I'll talk about is actually a joint grant that is going in for DCNR grants. Wildland is the ones that are being the applicant for it. It's a combination of 4 different municipalities throughout the Lehigh Valley at Pool Wildlife, where Wildlands is located, Plainfield Township, Lower Mac, and us as Northampton County for stream restoration within Wayne Grove Park. Native plantings will be placed in, and it'll be a restoration along the riparian buffer area within the park, along the Caddy Creek. You can see here is an outline of all the different materials and costs. We're proposing a $7,000 commitment from the county for at least a 27.5 project, which turns into a $152,000 project all over throughout the Lehigh Valley. So $7,000 will come out of the county's fund to match this grant that's already been submitted to DCNR for this purpose.
And that's money we already have in the account.
Yes.
So
yeah, all of these are in the account, and I'll actually get to one. We actually had more grant requests than funds this year. So there is one recommendation on one of the projects that I'll get to, and we actually kind of cut it back a little bit. So this is the grant request of $7,000. There's $69,750 already secured through other municipalities. The DCNR grant request is submitted for a total project cost of $152,000. Any questions?
No.
Okay. Yep.
All right. I guess we'll move that forward then. Thanks.
So the next one that we're looking at is the Oughoughton Creek Restoration Project. It's about 2.5 miles of stream restoration located along the Oughoughton. To give you a kind of a point of perspective, it's just northwest of where the Talon plant is, the old PPL nuclear power plant right there. So actually some of this flows right through that land and directly dumps into the Delaware River. Over the past 3 or 4 years now, Martin's Jacoby Watershed Association has been the lead on this project, with staff, mainly John Mauser, the president, has kind of taken a back seat as role of that. So Wildlands has stepped in, working with Martin's Jacoby Watershed on this project. They have secured funds for all of this. They have engineering drawings done. They're doing public outreach on it right now. As it says here, severe loss of lands, erosion, and sedimentation, and I I can't say it without showing pictures, but
Holy cow.
there's 40-foot cliffs literally in this stream area. The makeup of this soil is glacial till, so it's very rocky and soily. It's not compacted like clay or other areas. This was kind of like the area where the glaciers just dumped all of their junk, is what it was. So as things come down, flash floods, farming practices that don't have established riparian buffers, this is the outcome of that. So 2.5 miles along this will be graded back in certain areas. Plants that have long root systems will be planted in, trees, shrubs, and a whole host of other practices will be there. So as you can see, it's not just wildlands and Martin's Jacoby, but there's a rich diversity of partners already in this project. As you can see, Fish and Boat Commission, Trout Unlimited, Lower Mount Bethel Township, the Conservation District. They've been doing public outreach, and after this project is completed, they'll be doing public tours as well as part of a sustainable tour that they do on all their projects. Take field visits, use it as research to show how the stream improvements for water quality and sedimentation will improve over the years with this. So they've done their base data already, and they'll look to the future on the study and document it.
And I see that the Wildlands Conservancy is part of the funding for that.
Yes.
Is that any part of due to the contract that we signed with them? Or is it
this
before?
whole project was in the making
Before.
3 or 4 years. So DEP money, DCNR money, Wildlands, and Martin Jacoby got lower scenic Wild Delaware River federal funds.
Okay.
So there's been 4 years worth of funding. So to put the cap on this project, they're requesting $75,000. That $225,000 is already secured, and you can see the project timeline. Throughout this year, it'll be more public presentations, input, getting the DEP landowner agreement in place with each landowner. There's 6 different landowners here now. So that landowner agreement is a 20-year commitment for maintenance and monitoring. So that's something that we looked at when we put this environmental services program together, that there needed to be some kind of commitment for private property when it's not on public lands.
Yeah, so
20 years it'll be maintained, sustained, and open for.
So we're holding, the farmers accountable, whatever,
Yes.
that don't have the runoff that are part of the cause of it.
It's actually through DEP, so it's at the state level, more restrictions than what we would do. But the Conservation District, and I believe there may be one farm on here that's under preservation, so that has its own regulations at the state level and county as wide.
Okay. Any questions?
Not in this section. There is, and actually, I think the next one's actually going to be part of what I'll talk about in there.
Any questions?
This is an fishable stream, is it?
I don't think in this area. Well, as you can see, I doubt it is in this right now.
Yeah, the depth is
Yeah.
pretty shallow. I was just wondering if there were fish in
there-
it or not. Probably smaller ones.
There may be native closer to the Delaware, but the improvements would be something that hopefully they could come back to.
So if we repair it, will it narrow the channel of the canal to increase the
There's
height?
certain sections. So I only put one of the engineering sections in here, but you can see like some of it will be graded back, some of it will be graded up to make the floodplain a little bit easier. What happened over the years from all these flash floods and then the erosion, the stream bed actually changed course. So they're going to make it a little bit more straighter so it doesn't scour when it hits that hard curve, and use those techniques that they've done on other projects throughout the area.
All right, thank you. Move forward.
Yes, sir.
I didn't ask you that time, maybe.
So the next project is a Tekkanen Trails. It's 173 acres, about 1.5 miles along the Delaware River. This is literally adjacent to where the nuclear power plant is. This is part of Lower Mount Bethel. They already have 4.5 miles of trails there. It abuts their environmental education center and their park that they have, their community park. when we look at properties under the open space area, this is kind of one of the ones that just jumps out at, this is why we do those programs.
Well,
It is,
that-
it's, yeah.
Are you sure the nuclear power plant? I thought it was gas fired.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it was coal at one
Yeah,
point,
it was
and
coal.
yeah.
Coal, it
I knew it.
Now it
Yeah.
got changed over to,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Natural gas. Do you need to go over that bridge to get up?
no, they have access to this entire site from their environmental ed center. The bridge is not needed for that area. As you can, over the Oughoughton, that could be possible, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, are we redirecting that creek so it's no longer needs a bridge there?
I don't have that answer. Yeah.
If we redirect it, we can fill that part in.
Well, the redirection would be upstream from where I believe the bridge would be.
Yeah.
So this shows the existing structures at their community park that the land would tie into. It's already open to the public now, but with Talon, they approached the township and said, we want to give you guys the first offer on it. So they've actually submitted a DCNR grant, submitted a county grant, and they're going to be using some of their funds to help purchase it. But here's some of the trails and the overlooks that are along the Delaware right now that you can go walk it and see it. The township would own and maintain the trail systems as they do now, pretty much. So nothing would really change except the ownership of it. No, the 4.5 is within the land now. They maintain those trails. They had an agreement when it was PPL that as long as the township would maintain it, or Martin Jacoby Association would maintain it, that they would keep it open for public use. Now Talon's divesting in some of their assets, such as land. This is probably one of many that you'll start seeing, not just in the county, but throughout their land holdings. They put in for a county request of $300,000. The Lower Mount Bethel's put in $150,000 towards it. They put in a request for DCNR at $450,000. This one, I need to tell you, because of the funding that we do not have, the recommendation that I would suggest is at $200,000, which would allow us to do all of the projects that you've seen before, plus this one.
How does that affect any matching stuff, or?
They can. So what we've done in the past is they can either apply after the 2018 budget for other grant rounds if there's that available for them, or they have EIT money that they can take out of their coffer as well. But for the projects that we have in front of us, this still is the largest for the environmental services program that we would give out for grant funds.
And it's definitely, in my opinion, especially if they have the EIT available, I would say reduce it to the 200,000. Anybody else?
Okay.
So we'll be moving forward tonight to 200,000 then?
200. So actually, what? And
Yeah, the resolution is
Yeah.
down to 200,000.
It is already made. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, stick with that. Yeah, yep. Not the 300 they requested.
I don't know.
Well, you told me.
I told you it was going to change to 200? Okay. I don't know. Looking forward. Oh, that's right. I did. Yeah.
Well, it's down to 300 to 200.
Right. Because I didn't want to give you the time to flip-flop if there was.
Yeah.
It was.
All right. Any other questions from moving forward?
So the next one is the Deputy-Walton conservation easement located in Upper Mount Bethel. There's 30 identified vernal pools, 3 streams that literally lead into our Bear Swamp complex up by Lake Mincy. It's in a very high conservation priority area, so when you look at those Lehigh Valley natural resource maps, the dark green's the best of the land that we can preserve. This entire area is in that dark green. It's right at the base of the Kittatinny. It's within that greater Mincy corridor and the American Waters area that we've been helping to preserve. And they actually have an existing research commitment with Moravian College where they go out and do studies on this land already. So here you can see it's in red where it's located. You can see all the land that we've been preserving within this Mincy corridor, the Kittatinny Ridge corridor. The American Waters that we just settled on is that dark brown color. So it's right in that area of concentration that we've been focusing on over the years. As you can see, the buffers for each of the vernal pools, and on the left is where they're located within that land area. The right is the newest Natural Heritage Inventory that was completed by Western PA Conservancy, adopted by Lehigh Valley Planning Commission to study core habitat areas and supporting landscapes. Core habitat areas are the most significant out of all of them, and this entire parcel is within that core habitat area. So once again, it's the highest of the highest that we want to help look at preserving. So they're requesting a $90,300 request, which comes out to be about $1,619 per acre. Upper Mount Bethel has approved the funding for $101,700 for the appraised value of $172 or $3,240 per acre. No, we'll pay them $90,300. So what the program is set up to do is you can only pay 50% of the appraised value, but you can add in soft costs such as appraisals, surveys, and that's 50% or 5% up to the county commitment. So the numbers work out. It was an extra $4,300, I believe, off of that. Right.
So doesn't that add up to $191,000, $192,000?
Yes, and that's what happened there is the soft costs. So the appraisals, the title research, the survey work. Upper Mount Bethel has put in a larger commitment in than that because ours is capped at that percent. So we can only provide, I think it's 5% of the county commitment. The landowner will still own it. Jay, Deputy, and John Walton will still have they still own the land, but the Nature Conservancy will have the easement on the land.
What is the property, like market value, is that $172,000, or is that easement value?
The easement value is, and it comes out to be, I don't have it on here, per acre.
The 3240?
Yeah, there you go. That's per acre for the easement.
So that's what we're paying the 172 plus, in essence, closing
Plus the
costs.
costs, right.
And it will be open to the public then, public access? And
There's always a public access requirement, but because of the sensitivity of the area, they're mainly going to have school groups or research groups in there, just as we do with like our Mincy Lake area. We don't want to direct people to there, but we can have groups go in that are supervised.
Organized,
Right.
Site will allow public access to use and partnership, right, because usage.
Correct.
I interpret that as public access.
Oh, it definitely, it's public access, yeah.
But just not random people who would abuse
Right.
it, so you got to kind of go in chaperoned.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Was there a carve-out for a residence on the property?
There's a 5-acre carve-out that is taken out for the homestead area. So if it gets put in as full easement, then so I think it's around 64 acres total.
Mm-hmm.
The 59.5 would go through the tax freeze as the county. The 5 acres would stay out of that tax freeze, so any development on there would be assessed and taxed into the future then. But the rest of it would be tax frozen then.
And can they not build on the part that we're
Right, they
preserved?
cannot do anything, and there's different levels of easement language. So the highest priority, which is pretty much no cutting, no trails, the land is as is. That's the highest protection area, and that's what we're funding. The other one has limitations on it, and that'll be handled throughout the process of building the easement with the landowner and the Nature Conservancy. So, but there's still going to be a protection of it, at least some, for that area.
But the property, the 5 acres that the landowner owns, there's no restrictions on that.
There will be some. I have Ellen. She's with Nature Conservancy. She's actually the one that's working on the project. Would you have more direct answer for that?
Specific to the 5 acres, we're basically limiting their ability to make any changes to water. There are several streams that go right through the 5 acres, so they cannot make any changes to the water on the 5 acres. That's the primary restriction. The other thing about the 5 acres is that they're required to put this easement on top of the 5 acres, so it does devalue the property, but we are not paying them for that value. So we're basically donating the value of the easement on the 5 acres.
Can they get a house on there? Or
I
structure.
had, they're supposed to put a house and
Okay.
a barn, and I said, you have to walk through it with the zoning officer. They walked through it with the zoning officer, and I have a note from him saying that he accepts any responsibility for, whatever he wants to do has to be in that 5
Building on the
acres.
stream and underground caves.
We're not moving 1 inch of our high protection area, so anything he wants to do has to be in that area.
Right across the street is a house, actually, and it's tough to see, but you can see this little pond, and there's a shed there, and that's where actually another house is located. And the cutout for the area would be right in this area. There's actually an old house foundation that there's remnants of right here. So there was something that was built there at one time.
Need to put the mic on.
Yours on?
Mine is on.
Yeah. Thank you for the information.
Any other questions or?
Vernal pools. Let's move it forward.
All right.
Yeah, and just the only comment I'd have is I think that's a tad generous, $32.40 per acre for this property. I don't see it as being highly developable, and there's not a lot of road access to the property. So, would I pay that much for that property? Probably not. If it were my money.
Now, what leverage do we have to tell anyone that, or would the deal not go through, or say, the valuation of this, if you can't build on it, is not necessarily realistic, or?
Right, so for the conservation easement, what it does is it takes any development pressure off of it ever. So we look at preserving these types of lands through the Livable Landscapes Plan, through the National Heritage Inventory, through the comp plan that was completed by the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission. So all of these areas are highlighted as conservation areas, and when we go through the process of this is one of the areas. These are the top of the line projects that we want to see preserved. Sure.
We had the same question at the Vermont Bethel Township meeting the other night. What value is this property? And I just wanted to say that all of our appraisals are based on a very extensive appraisal done by a certified real estate appraiser. So, I mean, it's not a small feat. In the past, we've protected a number of properties in the same area, the Lopenna property, the Kirkridge property. Those conservation easement values are $5,000 and up. So this is actually the lowest conservation value for an easement that we've had. And when at the township meeting, they were talking about the developability of the property. And so basically what I showed them was this little map that shows the Deputy-Walton property and all the houses that, I'm sorry, I only have one copy.
Do you have a blower in the power? Okay, well, just go ahead. We'll figure it out.
This is it's a really scuzzy map. You can see where the property is, and the little red circles are all the houses that are built around it. So basically, the reason it hasn't been developed is because there are houses that these people have not developed. So the Walton property is the circle, and all the little red dots are houses. Basically, that area, there are houses all along the road. There's road frontage both on Persimmon Lane and also Quaker Plain Road, so it has extensive road frontage on both roads. And both of those roads have houses going up and all around them.
Sound like it. It didn't sound like there was a reason to put a home there. And my mic is on there, Jersey. Well, the Walton family's moving in, so.
All right. Any other questions?
Yeah, I do. What's the relationship between the two property owners? I mean, it's kind of strange. Is father and son, or is this?
They're just co-owners.
Was it an investment property that didn't pan out, or you know?
They had planned, my understanding is that they had planned to both live there, but Mr. Walton is very ill, and I don't think he's going to be living there. So I think that's my understanding, is that it was planned to be a residence for both, but, you know, probably Mr. Deputy would be living there, and Mr. Walton would pass on.
Yeah, because that was my next question. Were these business partners that were looking to develop the land found out it was undevelopable, and are they trying to get bailed out here? So.
Anybody else? Any questions? All right.
The last grant that we have in front of us is Monocacy Park Trail System Project for the city of Bethlehem. They're going to look to upgrade and stabilization of the existing trail from Shanersville Road up to Illick's Mill, expand the trail system within Illick's Mill, mostly along the creek and just below the pool area, signage and gateways for interpretation, benches, other amenities such as landscaping and things along the trail. Here's a rendering of what it would look like as an enhanced crossing. This is Shanersville Road. The old, I believe the gym is right to like the bottom right here. Burnside Plantation would be kind of like facing your back. If you would face
The old racquetball club.
yeah, exactly. If you're facing up the trail, that's to your back. So that's heading north. This is your back would be to the south there. Here's a better example, or a map shows where the trail is going to be going through the park itself. Estimated project cost of roughly $370,000.
That'll be following the current trail?
Yes, except in the area that is dotted will be a new improved trail system. The solid red will be enhanced.
Okay.
The new dotted one would connect up to the parking lot at Illick's Mill and provide for better trail surface and actual connection there.
Mm-hmm. You familiar with that?
I've been on the southern portion. I haven't been all through there.
That's a hill.
where the dotted line is going up to the parking lot?
Isn't that like their sledding hill there?
Yeah, that's a
Okay.
pretty steep hill.
Okay. And I know the dog park's up in that area by the pool as well.
Mhm.
But no, I haven't been on that bottom section of the trail yet. So this is the last of their municipal park money. They're requesting the remainder of 285 and 782. They're submitted a DCNR grant request already. So that was, I think they had 7 different projects. This would be their 7th through the municipal park program.
Any questions?
Brian, when you, where that crosses Shanerville, if you were to continue going south towards Bethlehem, you went by the plantation, do you know the condition of that trail to take you to Union Boulevard?
It needs improvement as well, but Darlene Heller has said that portion of it is in Lehigh County, so they're actually requesting some from Lehigh to do that, and they've tied it into the DCNR grant as well. So the whole thing's a lot longer than what we're doing, but they're going just after money for the section that's in Northampton County.
Because that part of the trail's worse than the park that
Yeah.
we're fixing.
Yeah, they're looking to get down to Johnston Park, which is the old historic district right behind Hotel Bethlehem.
Right.
So.
Just a couple questions. First, is there any municipal contribution for this project? I see county and DCNR. I don't see any.
No,
Any
not at this
local?
time. So
Isn't that a requirement?
it's a 50-50 match requirement.
Okay.
There wasn't a.
So if they don't get the DCNR, I mean, the state right now is not giving away money the way they did, say, in the
Right.
Ed Rendell era. If they were to not get that match from DCNR, would they still move forward with the project? I mean, do you feel confident that they'll get that DCNR request? Because
There's. I can't say I feel confident for any DCNR request just because of the multitude of money that is requested from them. It's only about 4 or 5 times the amount that they have funding for. But they have other options that they can explore. It is a 2-year program, so if they do get the funding now, December 31st of 2019 is when the project would have to be completed. So they have some time to pull some funds together, either out of the 18 or 19 budget, or find other grants that they could apply for.
And we wouldn't release any of it unless it wasn't
This is
matched.
all reimbursement, so the project has to be fully completed. I need to look at it. They need to submit all checks, make sure all the invoices were paid for and everything, and then we send out the check.
and the other question I had relates to flooding along the Monocacy is always an issue. Is that a potential concern here?
They'll have to develop that. That'll be all part of permitting through DEP, through the Conservation District. When they develop that trail, that'll all be part of the design of it.
Okay.
I'm real familiar with that trail. I don't think it is along the creek, but I mean, the trail the way it is now, which has been mud for years, when it does flood, but it just dries up real right. There's not like a flooding problem there. That's my.
So it doesn't get eroded?
I have not seen it, no.
Okay.
I've not seen it get eroded.
Yeah, because I don't want to spend $570,000 of taxpayers' money and have it washed away, in a flood or,
Yeah.
so.
It is right along it is right
It
along
has
the creek.
flooded, though.
Yeah, no, well, and it has, and this is right next to the creek.
I mean, I don't, as of late, I don't think it has, but I know we have had instances where it's flooded and it has been, but that's the creek beds. It's not the,
Right.
how far, what's,
I'm not familiar with this area for flooding, but I know downstream it floods heavily.
yes. But it doesn't, I think.
That bridge is new down there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes, John has a good point, though. But I'm thinking that, if they would put wood chip, right now, if I remember right, it's just like a dirt path. So it floods, it dries,
Well, they have
If they
to-
put a whole bunch of money in wood chips and it
Right.
flooded, I don't know if the wood chips would be there.
Chips
Huh?
They put wood.
Now,
I don't know.
how strenuous is the
Plastic.
the permit process that it be
Well,
Is there
with-
assurance on that end of it that it's
Yes,
going to be
with
something?
DCNR being the other funder, they have restrictions that if it is in a flood-prone area, it has to be macadam for longevity. They can't just put wood chips or stone down. The design of that will have to be done and completed. Any flooding coming off of the hill will be accounted for through Conservation District and DEP permitting. So they'll have their multitude of steps to go over that it won't get washed away within a single flood.
That makes sense to me now, because it didn't make sense to me that they're going up that hill like they are.
Right.
But they may be going up that hill to
Get out of
from
it.
to get away from the flooding.
Any other questions?
Let's move it forward.
So that's the grants, but I do want to give you guys a quick update since last time I had about 10 minutes. I did pretty good, though.
You did
I
good. You did. We had like 2 minutes to spare.
So I just want to give you a quick update of everything that's going on. There's a lot of trail projects going on. The Two Rivers Trail Gap will be pretty much submitting for permits within the next month or so. And then that process will take, who knows, 6 to 8 months to get through that. The Norbath Trail, 3 p.m. tomorrow, if you're available. We have a ribbon cutting for the Western Connection portion of it through the borough of Northampton. As you remember, we provided $200,000 for construction of that grant, or that trail section, and the borough employees constructed it. I was out there the other day. It looks really nice. They did a really, really good job with it. Both the
What time is that?
3
Where?
p.m. It's at Northampton Rec Center. So about a quarter of a mile behind the Borough Hall there. And that's the actual final connection down to the DNL trail that we've been getting to.
Okay.
It was part of Trail Gap number 4 that was identified in the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission 2013 inventory. The Carl Sterner Arch Trail, I'm working with the city of Easton at looking at appraisal for 3 parcels along Bushkill Street that could possibly tie in to the trail and make a connection as a loop there, and a connection to the northern portion that would connect up to Binney and Smith. We had PennDOT, meeting with PennDOT, the Lehigh Valley Planning Commission, myself, City of Easton and PennDOT all got together, and we're hopeful that we can have a design that would do a little bit on-road along Bushkill, but mostly off-road. It will alleviate a large monetary funding issue of getting across the stream for a bridge or anything like that.
Just by the Biddy and Smith?
Yes,
uh,
they've been talking about years about trying to use Bushkill Street. There's a large shoulder.
Yes.
They've been turned away over the past. But with the new PennDOT Connects report, I believe it's called, they're promoting bicycle and ped improvements. So we went back and talked to PennDOT. Their designers were like, we could check this out. So Dave Hopkins has his engineering department going out and measuring and getting some initial studies of how far from the actual road right-of-way is to the drop-off.
Yeah.
Can we put Jersey barriers in there, or what other type of safety improvements along the way? And it's about a 1,500 stretch from the bridge up to the light at Bushkill, or was it Bushkill and 25th or 15th?
15th.
Yeah. So that is a huge
No,
movement.
13th.
13th.
Excuse me,
Sorry. Yeah.
13th Street, yeah.
So that just getting through that
Yeah.
portion of it, of okay, let's go look at it now. I mean, that's 6-7 years in the making. So that's really good to see.
When you leave the trail
Yes.
and you go over the bridge on your way to Bushkill, you know what I'm
Yes.
saying?
Yep.
So you're up Benny Smith and
Yeah.
the trail. You're in their parking lot, which is a trailhead.
Right.
Right. So then you go out of there, and then you go up through the name of that street, but then you go across the bridge. Isn't that bridge a little dangerous to have?
It's a one-way
pedestrians
bridge
and-
right now, and it's actually, I believe it's owned by the local landowner.
Mhm.
So that's something that the city would have to look at, maybe taking that over, putting the
Yeah.
proper signs in, making
Okay.
a stop one way. Those are down the road.
Yeah.
Things that we'll have. We got over the hurdle of PennDOT saying, okay, let's look at it. So
Okay, well, that's better.
that's one good thing to move forward
Yeah.
with.
Yeah, that's getting from Benny and Smith to Bushkill is, I think, the thing I'm worried about. I
Right.
think once you're on Bushkill, especially if you put some barriers up, you'd probably be okay.
Right. The
That's
shoulder
interesting.
is large enough that you could actually have a two-way trail in
Yeah.
there. Two-way traffic trail, make sure it's signed and everything correctly, but there's enough that we think that we can
So that would take you down to the light at 13th Street?
It would go to the light, and then all the new development that is going on at the
Silk Mill?
Silk Mill. They're improving all the sidewalk, and then they'll get a trail across
Yeah.
to the back side of the Silk Mill. The trail actually ends
They,
on the south side of the Silk Mill.
yeah,
now.
they have two cement, right behind the Silk Mill, there was a bridge.
They actually got money to get that bridge.
Yeah.
And that's one of the areas that we're looking at acquiring.
Because it's already got the, I don't know how good the stone structures are, but the stone structure's there, and there was, I believe there's still a cable that goes across.
And I think the actual structure is there, so
Yeah.
they might have to rehab it a little bit, but I believe they got DCNR money or tap through PennDOT money to do.
That would be
what's on
ideal,
that.
because that taps right, I mean, it comes right across, and it would,
Right. And there's talk that there's tap money coming out in the fall of this year, so getting some of these projects up and running, that we at least have engineering started, because they're mostly shovel-ready projects. If we can show these things that are just about there, that'll help
Shovel-ready.
us get some
You like that term, John? Shovel-ready. Yeah.
shovel-ready. Yeah.
Shovel-ready.
You like your shovel ready, you can keep your shovel ready.
The Liberty Water Gap Trail, which is the Portland to the Delaware Water Gap National Recreation Area, Upper Mount Bethel, Portland, and Delaware Water Gap has recently signed a commitment letter between them all to form an alliance that will have representation from each of the municipalities. So the Park Service and the county and PennDOT have all kind of been waiting to have that local support that we wanted to see from the beginning. They have that now, so we're actually going to be looking at doing some engineering on 611 that would really complete the Liberty Water Gap Trail, which was a concept to get from Jersey City, the Statue of Liberty, up to the Delaware Water Gap National Recreation Area. So along 611, very wide, 2-3 lanes almost, 45 miles an hour in areas that doesn't really need to be. So we're going to actually look at making a really nice greenway going through, taking one of those lanes away, and making more bike ped in that area to promote what we talked about is outdoor recreation and give Portland a little bit of boost for tourism.
Yeah, I just want to kind of ties into it. You know, Hayden and I went with you today. Took a tour of Leisure Lake and you know, kind of obviously what we're going to look at doing up at Mincy. But we also then stopped at a little general store, you know, I don't know, half mile away, quarter mile away from it, and you know, really shows the economic opportunity with these trails and the lake between the kayak, boat, bike rentals, little restaurant there, and shop, and you know, things that I think that could really you know, see the rewards of the land they were preserving. And then I think the other part, again, you know, which we touched on yesterday at the Finance Committee, was, you know, tapping the Airbnb for their taxes, and you know, because realistically, that area is not going to see the, you know, the Marriott or Hilton hotels up that way, but the, you know, the bed and breakfast, the Airbnbs and stuff for places like that, you know, so we could actually have a tracking way to see economic benefit up there.
Those are going to be your best results, just from experience of people that do long distance bike riding. They're not going into the downtown to stay at the Marriott and pay $150. They're going to stay at an Airbnb where they can get a room for one night and pay $50 and then move on.
Yeah.
And that's the type of thing that you're going to see in those areas.
Ducklow's Airbnb.
What's that?
Ducklow's B&B. It's in Portland, never mind, it's a furniture company.
The Northern Tier Trail,
Yeah.
we had our first kickoff meeting, and they're putting a survey together right now, and they'll be out hitting some of the trailheads, putting it into local businesses and talking to keep people along the whole 30-some miles of trail over this summer, and then we'll get the whole public comment back, and we'll move forward on that one. 9/11 National Memorial Trail, I was at the Board of Directors meeting in Jersey City last Friday. They have signage that we've all agreed upon now, so we'll hopefully start seeing that pop up. I think the first portion of it's going to be in Morris County, New Jersey, and then along the whole 1,300 miles of it, you'll start seeing both vehicle, hiking and bike walking areas of signage. So
Jersey
Go-
City's
go,
coming
John.
alive.
it was totally different, and I never. Wow, we actually had our meeting in the historic railroad building, and it kind of gave me shivers, like
Yeah.
to see, like, no, my grandparents came through those doors at some time and
Oh, yeah.
walked down and hit those trains, and I'm in there planning like this over. It was just wow. I mean, it was something to.
It's a good thing.
It was.
Go ahead, John.
They actually-
This one. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Oh,
Well, I just wanted to follow up on before, if you want to finish the 9/11, I wanted to go back to the northern tier.
Sure.
The question I had is that what is the timetable to get a finished product? Gilmore, I believe, is the
Yes.
company. What is their timetable to hand us a finished product? And then once we get that product, will there be the will to enact it? I think, what I've always seen a lot of times with government is you do a study and pay for it, and it sits back in the office and it collects dust.
Well, if I could say, Hayden was at the meeting with the various municipalities all through, of course, Brian, and there were, and there seems to be the will in all these communities up on the northern tier to try and connect, and I think in the
I think that John has a point, you have a point. I think that our focus has been that, has not been, I don't want to say a word, let me just put it this way. Gordy was talking to me, and you were talking to me about the master plan that we're going to do for the golf farms. And I like that. But then we also have a master plan for the Wayne Grove Park that we never implemented. And this is to John's point, are we going to pay for another master plan that we never implement? Now, my take is, I think everybody knows, I love investing in properties that are like parks, or that the average Joe can go and with his family and enjoy it. Not that's where I think we should spend our monies on, and that would include anything that we do for Wayne Grove Park, anything we do for the golf farm, and trail improvements and things of that nature. That's really where I'd like to see our emphasis go. But yeah, to your point, John, when we were talking today about the master study for the golf farm, I was like, we have the master study for it. We haven't completed that, and that's just like crying. That area's, in my mind, is going to need recreation for the people over there because it's getting so built up. So, yeah, that's just my thoughts on it. I don't have an answer. Just reiterating what I was thinking.
So to go after your question, they have a 9-month time frame. What was the contract? I believe it was. But one of the neat things that one of the sub-consultants, Bob Thomas, he's from Philadelphia, he's pretty much an internationally known trail builder, he developed the 9/11 trail throughout Pennsylvania as well. And what they did was they looked at opening it at the end of that study. So there's signage that's coming up now. Even though that 10-foot, 12-foot normal multi-purpose trail is not there, there's options for a vehicle route, there's options for back road cycling. So it's not just that normal like Norbath Trail that we have, that 10, 12-foot one, but it's also areas that looking at low volume roads that we can get cyclists on, and even having like a view shed vehicle tour through that area as well. So 9 months from, I'd say early next year, we should have the plan. It would come in front of you for adoption. But also what's different about this trail plan itself is Wayne Grove and Gulf Farm are county-owned properties. They are county responsible for their park systems.
Mm-hmm.
What we're looking at this one is kind of how we've been doing the other trail systems, that it's multi-municipal. So each municipality kind of takes the reins on their section.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's in county-owned lands, then we're the ones responsible for developing that. We can also oversee the whole marketing and promotion and the signage for that. But the actual development of it would probably come from some of those local municipalities. So little sections here and there. And yeah, it doesn't fall on us to sit around for 10, 15 years.
And to that part, so I do like the idea that the trail is essentially open when it's done, and whether or not the trail changes as time goes on to where you can walk on it or as it builds out. But I like the idea of the having a plan for it, because, I mean, it would be foolish that Wind Gap and Penargil worked on something not in collusion,
Right.
and had a path that went through that didn't line up, when there could have been something, so that when you're doing it, it made sense that,
Well, that's a great example, and that's one of the reasons that I kind of, Penargil was about to start developing their trail to connect to the Plainfield Trail. And I was like, let's just hold off for a few months. Let's get this trail, because that east-west connection from Penargil to the Plainfield Trail, well, then it steers over to Wind Gap, and then it steers over to the Bushkill Trail, and then going east it goes to Bangor, and then Mincy and Portland. So having that sectional area of, okay, we need to focus in on these areas for the municipalities that are buying land that would extend, we own a park, and have those trails connect to those different areas, it gives them the opportunity to move forward, and it doesn't put all the emphasis on us.
I have a question, but it's different than what's going on here, but I am on the committee, so I can
we can move your question forward.
Big move. No, I agree with moving that forward. I don't have a problem with that. But have you ever been approached by people that are looking for what they call the dark space for the skies for the parks? They're taking photos of
stargazing and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, it's not. It's
It's
actually
dark skies.
Dark skies.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
And it's a promotion for people with telescopes and it's serious business. I met a gentleman out in part of western Pennsylvania, and it's big business and it's profitable. I'm not trying to make the parks. I mean, I'm not saying we should do that, but when you have a park that it doesn't have the light contamination, they look for spots like that.
We do. Unfortunately, our location within the Lehigh Valley and pretty much along that I-95 corridor, we don't have dark skies. The only really dark skies that I know of within Pennsylvania is up in the PA Wilds, like Potter County, Elk County, kind of away from everything. But
how much space does it take to away
well, it's
from?
not space; it's the light
it's the
pollution.
light-
Well, that's I mean.
all
So
over, yeah.
I mean, how far outside of light pollution do you have to get to get?
To see them, Jim Wilson, our rec specialist, does a good stargazing program up at Mincy. I think it's good enough that you can do that, but for the actual dark skies, like overall commitment of that, we don't have that here in the valley.
It's
just,
something
there's
I
too
want
much.
to bring up when we start talking about drawing people in
Sure.
for guests and people that would invest in those types of things. I had no idea it existed, and then I found out that it's a huge organization. And what they do is they gauge the types of people that have the lighting that is, they look for the non-new lighting. They look for the older style lighting that has caps over it so that it doesn't reflect into the sky. And then they can get pictures of the galaxies. These are telescopes that are serious pieces of equipment, and they take beautiful pictures. But it's a business.
It is, and you can get away with a portion of that up at Mincy, the southern portion of the park. But I mean, maybe even like some like along like the upper reaches of Moore or Bushkill. But getting down in this area, there's just too much.
Well, I want you to know I have the gentleman's
Okay.
card, and he was interested, and I didn't know we were going to hit on this, but I'll make sure you get the information.
Yeah.
It could be a benefit to the programs that we're talking about with, tying it in with all the tourist attractions.
Sure. Yeah, I would love to add to what we have and talk to him. We can even bring him up and show him around.
I was not aware of it. I was like, he was talking about it, and I looked at him, and he said, you don't know what I'm talking about. I said, no.
Yeah, and I believe it because I've done flights and we've gone to like northern Minnesota and
that's dark skies.
Yeah, and I mean like it's eerie almost. It was.
Oh, if you ever see those maps of like the United States lit up at night, you can see the whole corridor where the cities are, and then you see the black spots. That's dark skies. So.
But it's about light pollution. And
Yeah.
It's really cool stuff. So.
North Korea could have a real business with
They
dark
could.
skies. They got the market on dark skies. That's how they're going to pull themselves out economically.
That's what Dennis Rodman's doing. He's touring their dark
Who should I
skies.
send it to?
NELM, mentally ill.
Dennis Rodman's touring their dark skies. That's what he's doing out there.
We'll pursue that.
So any other questions on trails?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
The 9/11 National Memorial Trail versus the Liberty Water, Gap Trail. Does the 911 trail end up in Easton? Or
The
where is
911
that?
trail is a 1,300-mile co-aligned trail system.
Yeah,
So the DNL from Jim Thorpe to Easton is co-aligned as the 911 as
Right.
well. And then it breaks off, it goes through the Carl Starner Arch Trail and actually takes the Palmer bike path up to pretty much where Tatamy is.
Mhm.
So that connection. Tatamy to Stockertown, it goes up over the ridge, uses Cherry Valley to come through to Delaware Water Gap, comes through Portland, and then uses the Columbia
Okay.
Portland footbridge. Takes Liberty Water Gap Trail all the way across Jersey to Flight 9 or to the World Trade Center. Uses the East Coast Greenway down to DC, and then the CNO out to Flight 93, and from
Yeah.
there to here, it's a lot of back roads, some pieces of trail in between. But we probably have in PA, I'd say we probably have one of the most on-ground trail of the 911, actually. And we have a couple pieces missing,
yeah.
but
When I'm at presentations about the aquarium, they frequently talk about tying the trails in, which we talked about, which we're all in
Right.
favor of. And then they're talking about using that trestle over to Delaware in Easton at the forks.
right.
Does that tie into an existing New Jersey trail?
The Morris Greenway Canal is right across the river. It runs from there along the Highlands Trail up to somewhere in central Jersey.
Okay.
I think that actually gets us down into Jersey City as well. But that is not completed.
Yeah.
As
Yeah, I think somebody, that's why I was getting confused between the 911. Somebody told me that eventually, if this works out, that we would be able to go to over that trestle and get to Jersey City on that. Not now.
you
but
can
that
take
would,
the Liberty Water Gap Trail now.
No, but
Portland
I was
to-
talking about this is
Right.
like what they thought would be an attraction or an
Yeah.
additional thing for the aquarium build-up area, not for the aquarium, but just build up the area in general. Is that it would have access to that trail that would go to
Easton
Jersey
would
City.
have Easton with that addition has two defined trails that are over 150 miles. So
Mhm.
you got the DNL and you got the 911. If you make the connection up to Liberty Water Gap, there's another 150
Yeah.
miles. So they have access to a lot of trails
Mhm.
regionally, and that's why I see it important that we fill in these gaps locally.
I just have two other quick questions,
Sure.
real quick here, and I realize it probably will not work, but kind of backing up here to the Oughton Creek watershed
Yes.
project one, could you just double check it and see where that lines up that Bridge 31? Because if it is anywhere close and like any bypass of it, and that alleviates that whole bridge question, where it can just be filled, if we're getting rid of that part of the creek, we can just get rid of the bridge and just fill it in.
Well, that sounds pretty easy.
And I realize, like, it's probably not going to work, but I just feel foolish if we did this and it was like, you look at it in a map later and right around the corner, some little cut could have been done in the reshaping of that part.
Well, I can say I can look into it, and if there's any possibility to do stream restoration along that, I'm sure Wildlands would look at that as well.
Okay, yeah, just,
Anyway, Matt's talking about something more substantial. He's talking about rechanneling the creek bed to avoid a bridge.
I don't know if you can get away with that.
yeah.
Because that's pretty much at the mouth of the Delaware River there. Is that where you're talking, that close then?
It's very close, a mile or so from the river. Part of the problem is it gets a lot of flood waters from the river when the river backs
Right,
up.
so there-
It's not as much as it's the flood waters of water coming downstream.
But also coming down from the Delaware and pushing back
push
up.
back up. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is close.
I'll look into
Yeah,
it.
so I mean, like I said, I realize that it's probably not, but I just feel foolish if it was right there and there was something that could have been done that would kind of solve all these things.
Yeah, that's no problem. You said you had two?
Yeah, oh yeah. There's Mark Bayless who works with Valor Foundation, Wounded Warriors. He's looking at doing some properties up that way, and he was just asking. He's unsure who owns what property up in the northern part of the county. I just want to ask if I'd give him your number.
Sure.
Just where some of the land they're looking at butts up against and who to talk to. So they're looking at putting like a retreat something up
Okay.
that way, and they weren't sure which properties up there butt up against, whether it's county property, state, and I said, well, you probably know
Yeah.
every ounce of that
Yeah,
up there.
give me
so.
my contact information. I'll be more than happy to talk to him.
All right, thanks.
Sure. Trails. Anything else?
Sorry.
Okay. No, that's all right. Talking about trails is kind of different. The water trails that we have the upcoming Delaware River Sojourn, the 17th through the 23rd, and also the Lehigh River Sojourn, the 24th, 26th. So if you're interested, I believe there's still spots available. Delaware River their Sojourn's actually going to be camping 3 nights at Humor Park this year, and the Lehigh River Sojourn will end in Easton as they did last year as well.
How many people does that bring through?
I want to say a number, but I don't. It's
A lot.
normally on the stretches for the Lehigh River. I'm guessing they probably have 50, 80 boats a day.
Wow.
So, and those are canoes, so 2 to 3 people at least in each of those. The Delaware River is all kayaks, but I'm guessing between 50 to 75-ish that they get through. So, it's really cool. Like, if you've never been on there, get a chance and go out.
Yeah, I might try the Lehigh one. I'll be going for the
Yeah. I'll be doing it
I've been a canoe
25th and 26th. So.
All right.
We have our 3rd annual Get Outdoors PA Festival. This is not the one that's held at Steel Stacks. I was there, though, and Jim was there with me for Saturday. This is the one that we've held through. It promotes Lehigh Valley Greenways, the partnership that Claire Sadler was here to talk about, and I've mentioned pretty much every time I see you. But this one's at South Whitehall Township this year, and then there's a concert, large flower heads afterwards. We probably will have 30-some vendors. It's a great way just to invite the community to kind of talk about what we're doing, projects that are going on, and get people interested in the outdoors. Scenic Wild Delaware River. As you know, I was chair last year, and I accepted chair for another year. So we're moving forward with this. We're actually going to be holding a first geotourism conference in September on the 28th up at Woodlock Resorts. We're doing surveys right now to figure out what kind of workshops we're going to be looking at, and also sponsorships to local corporations over the next few months. We've been working on a few different projects. The Upper Delaware Council has done a monarch butterfly restoration program that we're kind of spreading out through the entire Delaware River area, promoting land preservation, restoration, kind of the things that we're doing here in Northampton County. There also, Discover Lehigh Valley has been a large component of this with Pocono Mountain Visitor Bureau. They are setting up different marketing techniques. They've been to different international conventions throughout the U.S. at Cleveland, D.C., and I forget where the third one is, but each of the DMOs along this 9-county stretch are promoting this. We had our first workshop that was about sustainable tourism and creative placemaking. It was held up within the National Recreation Area. We'd probably look at doing some of those as well, some more. But just to keep you in front of what's going on in this entire thing. Lake Mincy, we have a meeting in a little bit. I got time. At 6:30 is the Friends of Mincy. They're going to have their meeting the 3rd Thursday of every month, and they did the lake draw down. You can see there were some really nice fish that got pulled out. This one kid, I'm surprised he didn't get stuck in there, but
Probably lost a shoe.
so we're going to have the committee officially adopted tonight for the board for the Friends of Lake Mincy. We're already talking about grants, sponsorships, and so on and so forth to raise money to do projects. And we had Matt and Hayden out today to look at least their kind of the finished product, but you couldn't see the in-lake habitat as well. But we did see the ADA improvements around it, the pit toilets and parking lots and so on and so forth. So we're moving forward with that. And as this moves forward, I'll probably have the new chair. It's most likely going to be, Jim Wilson from the county will be our secretary, and he'll probably be the point person to come and talk here. I think the new chair will probably be John Mauser. He was part of Mincy, or the Martin's Jacoby for the longest time, a retired school teacher at Northampton. He's led environmental programs and stuff all over. So we'll find out tonight who the actual chair and such is. Just wanted to give you a little update on some of the programs that Wildlands has been doing. They had their first day camp this Monday at, I believe this one was at Wayne Grew. They did some stream surveys. They did like a little camping thing. We've done bat boxes. Some of them have been put out in our parks. And that first one, I think I showed you guys a slide, but that was supposed to be a wild edibles walk within WAG, kind of go see what plants you can actually, and then that's when we got that like 2 feet of snow. So they did snowshoeing. So we actually had a winter program this year. It turned out well. But I have.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
These show all of the 50 environmental programs, day camps, you and me camps.
Oh, cool.
That we have been working with Wildlands to promote outdoors, and you can see they're pretty much already full. So this entire summer, the day camps are, there's waiting lists on some of them. Some of the ones that have 0, we haven't even started promoting, like the s'more bats or bat s'mores or whatever ones. There's a camp one. There's a one that I think I'm going to have to try out really bad is the snorkeling in the Lehigh River. That's going to be a neat one. But it just goes to show that these things are getting out there, and there's a lot of participation in them.
Who's the contact for getting information for all these programs? Like, if you have people...
Jim Wilson.
Is it Jim Wilson?
Yeah.
These are on the county website, too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where
Yep.
you could click that and you can get the contact.
Or the Wildlands Conservancy, PA.
Or you can go on the Wildlands. Yeah, it has it on their website as well.
You want to talk about for our website? The county's website.
Oh, they're wildlands. Yeah.
So some of the
County.
additional
Okay.
programs that will be
I
starting
use that all.
very shortly is, as Hayden mentioned, the Gulf Farm Master Site Development Plan. I'm working on the scope right now, and Plainfield was a partner in that, so we'll have to get their information put in. It'll go out for RFP. We'll select a consultant, so hopefully within that time frame, we're looking at probably September, October is when we would hopefully hire someone and get that project started. We put in for an ADA planning study to look at all of the parking lots, and this stems from, we teamed up with Lehigh Valley Center of Independent Living to look at all of our parks for ADA issues. So we're trying to take like the low-hanging fruit and knock those out right away. We put in for a CDBG grant to look at what we need for engineering on all of these. We're looking at all of the parking lots to make sure there's some areas that are van accessible. That was one of the things that we didn't have in some of our areas, so we're looking at that. So that'll be a whole county-wide park one. We're going to be looking at doing engineering for some enhancements at Mincy, like a walkway, in woods trail with a small lookout. At WAG, there's a small portion leading up to one of the restrooms that might need a little teetering with the slope. And at Wyatuck, we're looking at making a better connection to the DNL trail from the parking lot itself, so going through most of the park back to the canal where it crosses over at a footbridge there. Forest management plans, we would like to get these things started and see how we can maintain all the land that we do have. There's options in there that we could possibly gain revenue out of that from, but we need to study, we need to plan what we have and look at timbering if it's possible for selective timbering in different areas. Greater Mincy Lake Corridor study, as we work on Mincy Lake itself and we work on the Northern Tier Trail, we have this whole geotourism program. I have a meeting upcoming with the National Park Service to see if we can make a more cohesive trail system, parking lots, and such from the southern portion of their park along Slateford Farms area that would connect all the way down into Mincy to promote outdoor recreation in those areas. We also have I have a meeting next Tuesday with executive director with Sleep Out Rising to get their thought about what they're looking at within the whole Sleep Out area for tourism and economic development and such. So as I'm working on all of these projects, I can work with him on developing strategies that would benefit everyone. So that's everything that's going on.
Can I ask you a question
Sure.
that has to do with parks and also has to do with ADA compliance?
Yeah.
Do you have, you mentioned Lehigh Valley Independent Living?
Center for Independent
Center
Living.
for Independent Living, is that a touch base for, when you look at the parks or you look at any kind of buildings that they help?
Yes, they're a nonprofit association. I believe they're all over PA. This is just their local chapter. They can get grants or they can do studies to make sure you are compliant with all ADA issues. They actually were very instrumental in doing the Leaster Lake improvements with the boat launch, the walkway that's there, and those things. So
Very great, thank you for that information.
sure.
Silo.
Just one thing related to the municipal park program. When is the last funding window, and do we intend to move forward with it next year? Or are we taking a year off, or because the program will expire at the end of this year?
Right. So first, I just sent out to every single municipality that still has funds left a last letter with what they have allocated left. It went to their board, and emails went to all of their managers. So once again, trying to get them to understand that this money's there. It was explained that they need to apply by September 31st. So the September round, September 1st through the 31st, is the last eligible round. They need to apply for that then. So then it'll come in front of council for approval on any of those projects, and then they'll have until December 31st of 2019 to finish that project. I've had preliminary discussions with the administration about what we're going to do for upcoming years, so maybe next month or the following we should have a little bit more, figure it out. But I still believe what you guys as council and administration both approved was any of the funds that were not allocated out of that municipal park program will go into the county parks and get some of these projects up and running that we've been trying to do.
Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Anybody else? All right. We'll adjourn. Thanks, Brian. Thanks.
Thank you. It's interesting. Linda, do you want me to put this on here, or do you want?
I have to set up my,